Let's talk about your health, wealth, and wisdom as a founder. Have you ever heard that expression, early to bed, early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise? I remember reading a newsletter way back in the day when I was a young entrepreneur, and it was called Early to Rise, and it was all based on health, wealth, and wisdom. And I remember reading that newsletter, and there were so many success stories and being inspired by that. Well, I could say the same thing about being a founder. Early to bed, early to rise makes a founder healthy, wealthy, and wise. And it's a simple principle, but I want to share with you two stories that happened to me this week that might make you stop to think about it. Because this week, I ended up getting really bad news, like tragic news. And then also, I had a very scary incident happen with my health. Let's get into it in just a moment, but I want to welcome you to Founder Fridays. This is when I just give you a no holds barred conversation. We just talk, and this is to my community. I'm not going to go through the regular YouTube introduction thing, and I just want to be vulnerable and transparent with things that have happened to me or things that I think about and reflect on that I think that you all out there as founders, especially if you're early stage, first time founders, that you should be thinking of. At the same time, a lot of what I share comes from my background of having 7 startups, 2 exits, and many, many years of being a serial founder, serial entrepreneur. And if you are already in some ventures or you have already successfully exited, or maybe you have transitioned and this is your multiple venture that you are on, well, then I'm hoping that we can develop that relationship. We can have that conversation. I appreciate all your comments. Let me know what you think. And if you like content like this and what other subjects that we can talk about. Story time. Here's what happened. There was a chain reaction of events. I got a text from my partner, one of my co-founders, and he said, hey, can we talk? I called him and I thought we were talking about another deal, another startup that was in our portfolio, but he just told me that one of our investors or a partner in one of our investment funds just passed away because of a heart attack. And this is a heart attack mid-deal, like mid-deal of a major set of deals. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. He passed away. And to disclose a little bit of information, it's pretty tragic because my understanding is that he was a single dad. He was younger, he was healthy, and my partner literally saw him like a week before, and there was nothing that would indicate that he had a condition that would lead to him having a heart attack. So it was very sudden, abrupt, and everybody was stunned. I did not know this investor personally. I kept sort of an arm's distance and let my partner deal with that side of the investment fund and all the mechanisms and deal making, everything there. And I ended up just bringing the deals, or I was basically an operational partner when it came to the ventures that we were raising funds for. It rattled my partner, but it also rattled me. And the reason it rattled me, this very, very tragic story. That's just horrible. And I know many people who have abruptly had family members pass away. I've had people that I know abruptly pass away. And that's not something that you wish on anybody whatsoever. Just this sudden jolt that enters into your life, it can be so traumatic because nobody's prepared for it. So I get that news. And if you've been following my channel, I have been dealing with some medical conditions as well. I got sick and it was a mysterious bunch of illnesses throughout the summer. And for 4 months, I was laid out and it was really crazy and it was very scary. And my wife came to me one time and she said, I am worried that you are dying. We have to figure this out. And doctors trying to figure out, well, it turns out there are multiple issues going on. I have a genetic history of high blood pressure and strokes in my family and high cholesterol. And so I might have had a heart attack 2 years ago or sometime between now and like 2 years ago. And the doctor was showing me the chart. In fact, here, let me go get my chart. I'll show you. This is my chart right here that the doctor showed me. I had to go in for all these tests and they took blood and this was an ECG, I believe. Yep, an ECG. And the doctor basically, I can't show it on the camera, but you see these 2 little circles right here? He said, yeah, that might be heart damage because you might have had a heart attack. Have you had a heart attack? And I said, no, I have no idea. I'm under a lot of stress all the time, but I guess this is a regular thing. So then they put me on blood pressure medication and they did some analysis and they basically told me at this moment in time, you have a 46% chance of having a stroke or heart attack. That was an insane number. And he said, basically, if you keep persisting on this, it's inevitable that it is going to occur in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's when my bell rang and I said, okay, we have to figure this out. So I went on a diet. I went on an exercise regimen. I worked on changing my lifestyle and even losing a lot of weight. I lost like 30 pounds. And the doctor said it's not changing anything because I'm taking my blood pressure every single day. They had to up my medication. And this medication that I'm on really lays me out. It makes me very tired. So I'm napping, and I basically had to pull back from a lot of my activities. Well, you can imagine what that news did to me when I was thinking, my gosh, a sudden heart attack, I could be there. So you know what I did? I went to the gym, and working out has been a really great thing for me because when I work out, by the end of the day, my blood pressure actually does get lower, but I was extra motivated. So I went to the gym, I worked out, and then I said, I'm just going to add an extra set of exercises. I'm just going to do some heavy squats and really just burn out the rest of my body and get that blood pumping. So I did some squats. And it hurt. And I was feeling pretty nauseous after that, but I'd felt nauseous before after working out. And I headed home and I was sitting there and I took my blood pressure right after. And I do that multiple times during the day. And my blood pressure was low, low, low. We're talking hypotension, like post-exercise hypotension is what I guess it's called. And I said, wait a second, I don't feel very good. And then I fainted. Pretty much right at the table. I fainted. And then I tried to get up. I fell over on the ground. My wife freaked out. She said, I'm going to call the ambulance. I was like, yeah, maybe we should call the ambulance. And instead, you know what I did? Because I'm a founder and I'm stubborn, I went and I just typed into ChatGPT and I said, this is what's going on. This is what happened. What should I do? And ChatGPT told me what to do. So I had to lie down, to drink water, raise my feet up there above my heart level, and just watch my blood pressure for the next 10, 15 minutes. Every 10, 15 minutes, I was taking my blood pressure again, and it slowly started to tick up. Truthfully, it was still low, really, really low for where I am. But by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I think I can go to bed because they said, do not go to sleep. If you fall asleep, call the ambulance. And my wife was checking on me and I said, okay, I think I'm okay enough to go to sleep. So all that is racing through my mind. On one hand, I have to take blood pressure medication because my blood pressure gets so high because of the stress at work and the different things that I'm involved in, and I'm just naturally, genetically disposed to have high blood pressure. But then when I exercise to get it down, the medication could drop my blood pressure to hypotension instead of the hypertension, stage 3 hypertension, go to hypotension, and now I'm in a no-win scenario. So what happens? Then I go get off my blood pressure medication, or I have to draw it back, and then I have to exercise more, and it goes back and forth. But what if I can't exercise or I get under stress again? You can imagine, like I said, what's going through my mind, hearing that one of the individuals that we do business with had a sudden heart attack. Not to mention my co-founder has had heart issues in the past as well. So we're all just thinking to ourselves, man, we're old and we want to be around for our kids. My kids are asking questions to their mother saying, if dad dies, what are we supposed to do? Like, they're having these types of conversations. Early to bed, early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. So let's talk about this for a moment. On one hand, I regret all the health decisions that I've made and I've sacrificed. It is not worth it. The things that I have put my body through to be a successful founder, I don't think it's worth it. I look back now, I don't think it's worth it. Now, you may say, well, Ed, it's nice to know. In hindsight, it's always 2020, and it is. And I'm sitting in a position of privilege where I don't have the same pressures. I've had enough success to look back and to reflect on it. Therefore, I'm not going to say I wouldn't do it again. I'm going to say I just do it differently. If I'm looking back, I do it differently. Let's talk about the Y Combinator advice. They say build something people love and talk to customers about it. Build, ship product, talk to customers. That should be your focus. Those are the main things. Well, I've thought through the years of adjusting it, and I've said, you should, instead of being a 50-50, 50 building product, 50 talking to users, I say do 40-40-20. 40% building product, 40% talking to users to get them to use your product, or talk to investors if you're fundraising. You can split that time, but always work on your product. And then 20% you should be working on self-care. And that could be something as simple as getting enough sleep, early to bed, early to rise, understanding your rhythms, eating properly, going to the gym. One of the statistics that got to me, that made me go back to the gym, is something ridiculous. Like 80% of Fortune 500 CEOs go to the gym, and some of them go to the gym every week. And some of them go to the gym every single day. And I remember a successful person was telling me that his mentor, which was another successful person, said that every hour that they spend in the gym is 1 day less that they are going to spend in the hospital later on. And I thought that was a really neat sort of mental model, a heuristic to think about how we're going to invest in our health now and make sure that we don't sacrifice and we don't end up in the hospital. And they say you should be in the best health possible by age 50, and then the rest of your life, you're not going to have those problems. I remember walking with one of my mentors, and I believe he's in his 70s, early 70s or late 60s when I was talking with him. And we were in China and we were walking. We were walking from the office, and suddenly he stepped off a curb and it jolted his body forward. He lurched forward, and normal people would have fallen. Like, he didn't know the curve was there, so his body falls forward. He managed to catch himself and do a little stutter step. And I thought to myself, my goodness, I said to him, you're really spry for your age, because other people would have fallen, broken their hip, and possibly died. My grandmother died falling down, breaking her hip. My mother fell down, she broke her knee, and now she's got persistent health problems. And therefore, I've heard from doctors, having core strength is one of the major contributors of your lifestyle and longevity, because you can prevent yourself from falling and breaking your bones, which then creates a cascade of all these other problems. Now, all of you might not be old as me, dealing with the issues as me. You're probably sitting there going, yeah, Ed, this doesn't apply to me whatsoever. It does if you want to use wisdom. Part of wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes. And I know that founders want to be rich. They want to do the unicorn company, exit, and exit, a lot of them, with FU money. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Some founders want to exit with enough money to be comfortable so they can have autonomous lifestyle and kick back. And other founders, they need to make money and raise more money so that they can make an impact in the world. That's totally great. But wisdom is knowing when to invest in your health and when to invest in your wealth. When to make sure that you are healthy enough to generate the wealth and learn all the lessons as you go, becoming a better leader, a CEO, a better founder, whatever position that you're in. That way you can cycle that back. The wisdom cycles back into the health, into the wealth, because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be around to make that money. And again, I'm in the fortunate position where I don't have to sacrifice as much time, hours, sweat, blood, and tears into my startups. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, yeah, Ed, I'm just going to keep doing that right now, and I'm going to sacrifice till I can get to your position. But what if you don't get to my position? Or what if you have a health issue before you get there? Only you're going to know, and that's up to you and your wisdom to take care of yourself. I'm not advocating at all about being entitled and saying, I need work-life balance. Work-life balance does not exist for founders whatsoever. Just get it out of your head, because work-life balance implies that you work this amount and then you balance out with the rest of your life. And so if you work more and it goes up like this, then your life is going to go down. So now you have to do more life, etc., and you have to keep doing this. It does not have to be equal. There have been times where my family has sacrificed, and I've said I have to put in more work for my startup, and therefore life has to take a bit of a back seat. Think of it, instead of a scale and balance, think of it like an orchestra, and you're trying to create the greatest song that anybody's ever heard that's going to make you millions of dollars, attract a bunch of users, get a ton of traction, and investors are going to want to buy it or invest in you, and you keep spreading that out there. Sometimes certain parts of the orchestra have to play more. Sometimes there's a solo. Sometimes it's heavy on the strings, or heavy on the bass, or heavy on wind instruments, because my kids are in band. One of my kids is in band. And so I learn about all this stuff. You might have to have seasons in your life and time in your life where certain instruments take the front and everything else takes the back seat. But eventually that orchestra is going to be about balance, because if the entire song, the entire show is nothing but one instrument or one set of instruments or a type of instrument, that orchestra is going to get boring, and it's not a healthy orchestra. It's not a healthy product that you're going to create, and that's the way that you have to think about yourself. The main takeaway here is that founders tend to think about health and wealth. That's it. And then they stumble upon wisdom. And that's the reason us advisors exist, or other mentors, or people in your life that have been there and done that. We have the wisdom, and we've done the sacrifices, we've fallen into the traps, and we've enjoyed the spoils of all the hard work. We've toiled and toiled and toiled, and then there are spoils and spoils and spoils, and we can share with you what you need to learn on how to get there. If you are a founder and you said, Ed, I want to build a unicorn and make FU money and basically put $100 million in my bag, I'm going to say, great. You need to own 10% of a unicorn doing $100 million a year that you sell for $1 billion or go public, anything like that. And that I will help you with, because I've seen that happen. I'm not in that position. I've gotten reasonably close, but I'm not in that position directly because I've used my wisdom and I've chosen to value and prioritize other things. For me, I gave up a startup, and this might be a good story for later on, but I decided not to pursue funding for a startup, even though it was offered for me, because I didn't want to be away from my family. Later on, I did take seed funding and I moved away from my family. It was at different phases of life, and I made those choices using as much wisdom as possible. Therefore, if you want longevity as a founder, if you want to live a long life, enjoy all your spoils, make the impact, have the relationships that you're looking for, have that lifestyle if that's important to you, or create that unicorn startup, wisdom is going to be the key. Instead of bouncing back and forth and saying, am I healthy? Am I making the money? Wisdom to understand where you invest and how you do it and where you get your support, where you get the people who are going to have your back through that in the tough times, especially like co-founders need to be with you during the tough times. Those individuals who are going to emotionally contribute to your capacity and your resilience and be there not to fix you, but to say, hey, when you're failing, we are glad that you are failing with us. We can do it together and be optimistic together. That's the reason I do executive coaching for founders, executive coaching for C-suites in startups that have made a lot of money and have a lot of money at risk. Why? Because I understand injecting wisdom into those situations is going to be one of the highest leverage investments that is going to help in long-term success, and that's what we're here for. The last thing you want is to get short-term success and be under so much stress that you end up dying suddenly and abruptly with a heart attack and leaving the people in your life in the lurch, completely flabbergasted, stunned, have no idea what they need to do. That's the last thing that you want. So finally, my last word, healthy, wealthy, wise. Early to bed, take care of yourself. That's the health. Early to rise, that's how you generate the wealth. But wisdom is what's going to help you understand the interplay between each. And wisdom, I hope, is going to help you learn from this community. And wisdom is what I hope that you learn from this channel, spending time with me. I appreciate you all. I'm recording this the week of Thanksgiving in the United States. I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving if you're celebrating. I hope you have so much to be grateful for. Be blessed. Thank you for spending time with me here. I am blessed because all of you are out there and all your encouragement, and I'll see you in the next video.